Have you ever wondered how humans with our complex brains and dexterous fingers came to be? Our story begins with the dawn of humanity itself, when our ancestors first looked at the world around them and began to ask questions. They observed the myriad forms of life, each uniquely adapted to its environment, and wondered about the forces that shaped them. In those early days, the mysteries of life were attributed to the will of the gods or the workings of supernatural forces. A thunderstorm was not just a meteorological event, but an expression of divine anger. A fruitful harvest was a blessing from the earth goddess, and the diversity of life, that too was the work of the gods. But as time went on, our ancestors began to seek natural explanations for the natural world. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Empedocles and Aristotle were among the first to propose that life changes over time. Empedocles suggested that all living beings originated from the same basic elements, and that nature selected the forms best suited to survive. Aristotle, on the other hand, proposed a ladder of life, with every organism having a fixed place in a hierarchical order. These early theories were not entirely accurate, but they represented a fundamental shift in human thinking. Instead of attributing the diversity of life to the whims of the gods, these philosophers suggested that life changes in response to natural forces. They proposed a dynamic, ever-changing world where species are not static but constantly evolving. And so began humanity's quest to understand the origins and diversity of life, a quest driven by our innate curiosity, our desire to make sense of the world around us. And while we've come a long way since those early days, the journey is far from over. Each new discovery leads to more questions, more mysteries to unravel. These ancient theories, while not entirely accurate, marked the first human attempts to explain the diversity and complexity of life on Earth. As our understanding of the world grew, so did our theories of evolution. Let's journey back to a time when the world was rife with curiosity and discovery, the Enlightenment period, a time when the human mind began to peel back the layers of the natural world and the birth of scientific thought took center stage. In this era, we saw great minds like Georges-Louis Leclerc and Jean-Baptiste Lamarck delve deeper into the mysteries of life. They began to question the static nature of species, proposing instead that species could change and adapt over time. Leclerc was one of the first to suggest that life forms might have evolved from a common ancestor, a radical thought that challenged the prevailing beliefs of the time. Meanwhile, Lamarck took it a step further. He proposed the idea of inheritance of acquired characteristics, suggesting that traits developed during an organism's life could be passed on to its offspring. Picture a giraffe stretching its neck to reach the leaves high up in a tree. According to Lamarck, this stretched neck would then be passed on to the giraffe's offspring. Sure, these early theories had their flaws. Leclerc's ideas lacked evidence, and Lamarck's theory couldn't explain why we don't see these inherited traits in reality. But they were a starting point, a spark that ignited a revolution in our understanding of life. These theories challenged the status quo. They opened up a world of possibilities where species were not fixed entities but dynamic and ever-changing. They paved the way for a deeper exploration of the natural world, setting the stage for a theory that would forever change our understanding of life on Earth. Though still not perfect, these theories were a step closer to the truth, laying the groundwork for one of the most influential theories of all time. In the 19th century, a theory emerged that would change our understanding of life forever. It was during this vibrant period of discovery that a man named Charles Darwin stepped into the limelight of scientific discourse. With him, he brought a theory so revolutionary it would forever alter our perception of the natural world. Charles Darwin, a naturalist by profession, embarked on a 5-year voyage around the world, observing and studying the diverse array of life forms. He was particularly intrigued by the variations in species from different geographical locations. This curiosity led him to propose a theory that was as radical as it was insightful. This theory, known as natural selection, suggested that species evolve over generations. Now you may be asking, what does this evolution look like? Well, let's delve a bit deeper. Imagine a population of creatures, each unique, each carrying a different set of traits. Over time, some of these creatures will inevitably be more suited to their environment than others. These fittest individuals are more likely to survive, reproduce, and hence pass on their advantageous traits to the next generation. This process, repeated over vast stretches of time, leads to the gradual evolution of species. Darwin's theory proposed that this is how the incredible diversity of life on Earth came to be. From the smallest microorganism to the largest mammal, all are products of this relentless process of natural selection. But a theory, no matter how revolutionary, needs evidence to stand. And Darwin's theory was no exception. From the fossil record to the geographic distribution of species, from the commonalities in different life forms to the subtle changes within species over time, numerous lines of evidence converged to support Darwin's theory. And so it was that Darwin's theory, backed by a wealth of evidence, became the cornerstone of modern evolutionary biology. In the wake of this theory, our understanding of life has never been the same. The story of life is a story of change, of evolution, and it's a story that continues to unfold. With the advent of genetics, our understanding of evolution took a quantum leap forward. Indeed, the discovery of DNA in the 20th century was a watershed moment in the annals of science. This double helix structure, coded with the blueprint of life, provided the missing link that Charles Darwin's theory of evolution needed, a mechanism for inheritance. Let's take a moment to appreciate the significance of this. Darwin had astutely observed that organisms change over generations, with traits that enhance survival and reproduction becoming more common. But he didn't know how these traits were passed down through generations. The discovery of DNA filled this gap in our knowledge, showing us that these traits are coded in this molecule that is passed from parent to offspring. But how does this genetic material change to bring about new traits? Enter mutations, the driving force behind the diversity of life. These are changes in the DNA sequence that can occur due to errors in replication or exposure to certain environmental factors. While many mutations are neutral or even harmful, some can lead to new traits that may give an organism a survival advantage. This is where natural selection, Darwin's revolutionary concept, comes into play. It acts as a sort of sieve, favoring those organisms with beneficial mutations. Over time, these advantageous traits become more common in the population, leading to evolution. And that's not all. Modern evolutionary biology goes beyond Darwin and genetics, incorporating other fields like paleontology, ecology, and computer science to build a more comprehensive understanding of how life evolves. It's an exciting, ever-evolving field that continues to shed light on the mysteries of life. Now, with the power of genetics, we can trace our ancestry back millions of years, confirming our evolutionary history. In the grand tapestry of life, we're all interconnected, part of a continuous chain of life that stretches back billions of years. It's a humbling and awe-inspiring realization, brought to us by the power of evolution and genetics. But is evolution just a theory, or can we see it happening? It's a question that's been asked countless times, and the answer is a resounding yes. Evolution isn't just a dusty concept tucked away in science textbooks, but a dynamic process that's happening right now, all around us. Take, for instance, the phenomenon of antibiotic resistance in bacteria. It's a clear-cut example of evolution in action. When bacteria are exposed to antibiotics, only the ones that can withstand the drug's effects survive. These survivors then reproduce, passing on their resistance to the next generation. Over time, the entire population of bacteria evolves to become resistant to the antibiotic. This is a process known as natural selection, the very cornerstone of evolutionary theory. Or consider the rapid changes in species due to environmental pressures. A classic example is the peppered moth in England. During the Industrial Revolution, soot from factories darkened the trees where these moths lived. The darker moths, once easy prey, were now camouflaged against the sooty trees and thus more likely to survive and reproduce. Over just a few generations, the population of peppered moths shifted from predominantly light-colored to dark. This is evolution in real time, driven by the pressures of the environment. These instances aren't anomalies, but the rule of nature. From the subtle shifts in bird beak sizes to the dramatic transformations of insect populations, evolution is a ceaseless process shaping the living world. It's not a theory in the everyday sense of the word, but a scientific theory, which means it's backed by a mountain of evidence and widely accepted by the scientific community. So evolution isn't just a theory, it's a fact of life, proven by science and observable in the world around us. It's an ongoing symphony of change and adaptation, a testament to the dynamism and resilience of life on Earth. And it's happening right here, right now, in every living thing.